The reported excess hours worked by law enforcement have become a key point of contention in the ongoing fringe and wage negotiations with the government negotiating team.
We put forward an article for excess working hours allowance. That is taking into consideration the fact that police officers work in excess of 96 hours for the week, and that's just duty. Not even taken into consideration at that point, and taken into consideration also.
That's on average.
On average, the regular police officer who works at the various stations.
Wow.
So they work 2 days, they go off for 2 days, they come back for 2 days.
And so when they work 2 days, it's what? A stretch of
48 hours.
But you count the sleeping hours as well?
You're at work. And anything that happens, you are duty bound to attend to it.
As a guest on Radio 100's popular mid-morning program, What Makes You Mad? With host Stanley Lucien, Police Welfare Association President Cameron Law argued that failing to compensate officers for excess hours would ultimately compel the employer to hire additional staff, an option that could be even more costly for officials.
Maybe it's a question of human resource allocation. Because, okay, what happens in probably, let's look at the region, is that the same thing that obtains?
In a number of areas in the region, it obtains.
And is that standard for police across the world, from your understanding?
It's not standard for police across the world.
Yeah, but why must we adopt that? If it's having such an impact on the policemen that they have to be working 96 hours, which is really not acceptable if that be the case, why can't we make the necessary adjustments so that the policemen work fewer hours? You can go to your family and, you can do your social things that you need to do.
We have to do that, Stanley. As I was saying, you would need to augment the manpower of the police force. And when we did the calculations not long ago, during the negotiations period, it probably would, we would have to employ somewhere in excess of another 800 police officers.
But
one second.
Yeah.
To ensure that police officers work the 40-hour work week,
Yeah.
and get the time to enjoy with their family.
Yes.
So at that point, understandably so, the government would not at this point be able to afford
That sort
so
of number.
many police officers.
But let's look at it.
Law faced tough questions about the possibility of adjusting the current system to create a more balanced and conducive work week for officers.
We're not getting something right. If we are double the average per 100,000 of police men and women, we shouldn't be in that sort of crisis of the number of hours. We're not doing something right.
If you may want to ask that question to the Commissioner of Police, because the staff orders for public servants in somewhere around 4.2 tells you that the working hours for public servants is 37.5 hours a week, and in other cases, it gives reasons 40 hours a week. So public servants are entitled to 40 hours a week at the least.
Okay.
Right? 1 second.
Yeah.
It goes further to say to you that the times of work, not the hours, the times of work, meaning in these 40 hours, the times of work for police officers should be done by the Commissioner of Police. So the Commissioner of Police is responsible to set the times of work for police officers.
Okay.
So, in saying that, we agree that nobody should be working 96 hours.
Yeah, it's not.
We agreed on that.
Yeah.
And nobody should be forced to work it either.
Yeah.
So, we proposed an excess working hours allowance. That excess working hours allowance at that time, mind you, and we have heard of the fire service enjoying, and the fire service deserves the excess working hours allowance because they too work in excess of 40 hours a week.
Okay.
So they're entitled to it. So we proposed that excess working hours allowance. It was shut down by the government negotiating team.
The Police Welfare Association (PWA) says it proposed a $1 monthly payment for excess hours worked, but according to law, the government's negotiating team rejected this proposal in December 2024. The PWA has since moved on from this proposal, with officers reportedly growing anxious and frustrated over the prolonged negotiations.